Cans it over to Cam Fowler straight away. Finding Thomas in the circle. Shoots it high. The puck to the glass comes to Bolduc near wing. The rookie to the blue line. Fowler holds it. Passes. Thomas in the circle. Backs up. Deflection. Score! Pavel Buchnevich. He's got two. Under the bar on the deflection on a great feed from Thomas. Power play goal. 2-0 St. Louis. 16:49 to play first period. Buchnevich finding Thomas. In the middle. Fowler. Score! 3-0 St. Louis. 4:09 to play. Third period. Cam Fowler lights the lamp.
Well, I was expecting a fast start into this one. I'm not sure I was expecting that fast of a start. 48 seconds in, Pavel Buchnevich gets the offense rolling, and then from there, the Blues do not stop. Welcome, everyone, into our extended post-game show, the fourth period, here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN, along with Joe Vitale, Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Alex Ferrario. Brandon Kiley will be up from the locker room in a bit as well as we dive right into our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. And we're on our YouTube channel as well at 101 ESPN STL. So we're TV stars, just like we're radio stars, Joey. Although you're already a TV star.
How about that? We're on TV, huh?
We're on TV.
Camera?
Right over here.
Hey, old friend.
There, look at that. Joe Vitale, ladies and gentlemen. Up on our YouTube channel, 101 ESPN STL. See? Joe Vitale, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, there he
Hold
is.
on, he's scooting towards Oh, there I am. This is what you get with live radio, Joey V. Well, hey, let's start with this because we knew they were going to have to come out with a fast start, my man. I expected the physicality. I don't know if I expected the offense to come out that fast for how much they've struggled at even strength. But, man, they did exactly what Jim Montgomery talked about, net front presence and trying to take the eyes away from Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, they did it early. You know, you got to set the tone early. I mean, this is a game where if you let Winnipeg kind of ease their way into it, I think they find a little bit of belief. I just thought the Blues bullied themselves into this game and just put doubt in the Winnipeg Jets right off the hop. And you know that the start was going to be important because once you got the crowd energy behind you, I thought that that's where the anxiety and the stress and the stick gripping too tight would come for Winnipeg, and it really proved to be that way. You know, you got to give a lot of credit to the top players here for St. Louis with Buchnevich and Thomas and Fowler all stepping up big in that first period. You know, one thing I've loved about every game of this series consistently has been the starts. Game 1, Game 2, I mean, great starts, great energy. I thought they really pushed Winnipeg back a little bit. I thought they had them on the ropes in Game 1 even. You know, if Kyrou scores that goal, you're up by 2 heading into the third. Remember, it was the first period that established them to get to that point. You know, Winnipeg crowd was kind of draining out, as Jake Neighbors told us in Game 1. And then in Game 2, you had 3 grade A chances all within the first 5 minutes. You just couldn't solve Connor Hellebuyck. So the starts have been great. It was just a matter of can they find a way to get to the back of the net maybe once, maybe twice, and then they'll never look back. And it's exactly what happened here. They built upon it every single period. I thought it was probably a 50-50 split in the second, but the Blues continued to press in the third period. I thought it was a good emotional and mental breakthrough for them to win a third period for the first time in this series, because that is the type of confidence for a full 60 minutes you're going to need to take into Sunday afternoon.
And I got to imagine, too, Joe, you create a little bit of doubt, right? You create a little bit of doubt for Winnipeg in this situation, specifically with Connor Hellebuyck. I don't think there's anything to it. It's only one game, and you can't get too excited with it. But to have Connor Hellebuyck yanked at the end of that game in the third period, and specifically a team that lights him up for 6, you've got to imagine at least some doubt starts to creep in if you're Winnipeg.
You know, I think half of me thinks it's doubt. Half of me thinks it's could be momentum for the Blues. You know, the other half of me from a hockey mind, Alex, is, geez, they're going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a good
allow a touchdown against you, yeah, that's embarrassing in a whole different way.
Yeah.
But it's got learning lessons in a whole different way. In some ways, as scary as it sounds, in some ways, I actually think this is going to drive Winnipeg to have more urgency on Sunday versus a 2-1 overtime loss.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the Blues have got to witness that, see that, and then counter that. okay, we know they are going to respond because they just got embarrassed in Game 3. So you're expecting a start for Winnipeg like the Blues had tonight. Now, the question becomes, can the Blues embrace that? Can they shield that? Can they feel that? And then also continue to push their game moving forward? That's why this is a series, and that's why this is going to be the big question mark come Sunday.
Is it possible, Joe, to take the physicality in this series to another level? Because if Winnipeg's realistically pissed off coming into game number 4, they have to take their game to the next level. But as soon as you do that, you know you're at the will of the officials to where they could start calling penalties, and your penalty kill has not been good if you're Winnipeg.
I think that Scott Arniel is going to make a pretty substantial adjustment come Game 4. I think after you witness the emotions, the uncharacter penalties in all 3 zones, after the whistles, I mean, Luke Shen, I felt like he lived in the penalty box here tonight. I think you have to take the biggest lesson away for Winnipeg, which is you have to find a way to establish 5-on-5 hockey. And if you can't do it, if you're just hitting and you can't remove yourself from the emotion, I think in some ways he's going to be okay with a little bit less hitting. You know, I actually think the Blues game thrives under hitting, so I can see St. Louis continuing to press down and put the gas to the metal on all of it. Because when they're physical, they're playing north and they're playing with speed. They're just arriving at the right time to be physical. I think Winnipeg has been so undisciplined at times in this series. They should be feeling lucky that they're ahead still 2-1. What's amazing is that they've been very undisciplined. The Blues power play has been exceptional, and the Blues are still down in this series, which kind of goes back to how you win playoff games, which is 5-on-5 in defense. That, to me, is the foundation, which clearly states that. But it's been great to see the special teams working. It's been great to see Winnipeg show some of the immaturities in their game. Remember, this is a team with not a lot of Stanley Cup champions on their side, Alex.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys that have gone deep in playoff runs. This is a group that majority of these players have been there the last 2 years where they have been bounced in the first round after winning the opening game and then getting swept. So there's a lot of immaturity. There's a lot of growth still to be happening in Winnipeg. And I think for once in this series, you're looking at St. Louis and starting to get under the skin of these Jets.
T-Bone, for you, we're in our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways here on the 4th period. What was the takeaway that you took away?
Well, I'll go back to what Joey said pregame. I mean, you said, hey, the defense, will they kind of activate tonight? You know, Broberg didn't have a shot on goal so far in the series coming into this one. And, guys, they were a buzz of that D group. I mean, they had 26 shot attempts at 5-on-5. They got 10 of those on target. And what did that lead to? That led to rebounds in front. They got bodies in front. They were taking away some of the eyes from Hellebuck. I mean, that was one of my biggest takeaways. The defense really brought the offense. And when the Blues are playing their best, they're not only getting in on the cycle game, the defense is also peppering the goaltender, and they did that very well tonight.
Yeah, that was the biggest adjustment. Steve Ott, he touched on it. You know, the lack of success they had in Winnipeg, it was so clear from where we were watching. The D were just not going. They were staying back, and at first I was thinking, is Colton maybe not 100%? And luckily his game got a little bit better with you joining the rush, but Cam Fowler seemed lost in Winnipeg. And I think, again, it kind of goes back to the structure of the foundation of what they wanted to set in the series, which was defend first and be on the defensive side. And I would imagine that, you know, maybe Jim Montgomery's not going to admit it just yet as we're in the middle of the series. But looking back on this series, was it something that they probably shouldn't have started with? Probably not. But now they made the adjustments, and this is why it's a series, and this is why it's a long series, because it's the game-to-game adjustments. But to Tanner's point, Alex, yes, absolutely the D were so active here tonight. They drove the offense. They drove the tone of the game. And this is what the Blues hockey looks like when it's at its best. The D actually are the ones that drive the offense. They drive the energy. They drive the momentum. Because, you know, you got the backstopping of Jordan Binnington, but seeing those guys zip up and down the ice, the Falks, the Bracos, the Fowlers, the Brobergs, I mean, even Tyler Tucker getting in the mix on the offensive side of things. And it's not just the rush. It's like when you rush and there's a turnover in the offensive zone, you start the offensive cycle. I mean, those D are still down there. It's incredible to witness it. It's incredible to watch it. The fact that they kind of play that kind of Zach Werenski hybrid defending forward type of style that has really kind of pushed Winnipeg back. And this is the best game that Winnipeg has seen of the Blues all season long. And there's no question about that. Even coming out of the Four Nations, it wasn't like this. The physicality, the speed, the tenacity, the wave after wave, the goaltending, the energy in the crowd. there is no question, doubt in the Winnipeg Jets' mind. I think they're going to have a pushback. You don't become President Trophy winners with a bunch of aloofs on your team. There's some veterans. There's some gritty, gutsy guys that are going to want to respond. But this is not an easy cakewalk type of series like I think they were thinking this was coming in here for Game 3.
And the one thing, too, Joe, and this will be the final one before we let you go, on top of the defense being so active, I also thought that they were reloading really well. Every time that they would jump up into the rush or they would try and create those 3-on-1 opportunities, they would also be the first ones back to break up plays. And specifically in that first period, Winnipeg couldn't get it past the neutral zone.
Well, they skate well. I mean, that's what Steve Ott told us a few weeks ago. And when I asked him about this D-core, and, when you lost Parayko, this team kept going. He's like, well, Joe, yeah, you lose Parayko, but you get back Nick Leddy. And I don't know of a more prolific skater in the National Hockey League at his age that he can get up and down the ice. So I think the skating ability of the D, the way they can join, the way they can get back, the way they recover from each other, the way they can escape trouble. I mean, it's a group that has a lot of experience, but it's got this amazing balance of experience, yet also they can all maneuver up and down the ice with such ease that it makes life easier for the forwards. You can skate, and then also they're distributing the puck with Fowler and Parayko, and especially Broberg, the way they can shoot the pucks up 100 feet to forwards right on the tape to tape. I mean, that proficiency of moving the puck, moving your body, it just pushes everything back. And I think when Fowler's on it and Parayko's on it and Falk's on it, it is just a completely different dynamic that I don't know if Winnipeg really has seen a lot of this year. I don't really know there's a team in the Central Division that really plays to the identity of what the St. Louis Blues have. I mean, you look at Colorado, they have a rush attack. They have tons of great forwards, lots of depth. Even Dallas, they play that kind of big, heavy style, but without Miro Heiskanen, they don't really have a defending group that can jump and join outside of Harley. So you look around this division, you look around this league, and I think that this is where it's kind of caught the Jets off guard, where this is a group that is driven from the offense, from the defending players, the way they can get up and down the ice. So it's going to be interesting to see how Scott O'Neill adjusts from this. I think he's got the coaching staff to do it. I know he's got the team to do it. And to me, that's why it's the response from the response. How are the Blues going to respond to a big response coming Sunday afternoon?
And you got to get home, Joe, because you've got a bird, you've got 2 dogs, you've got
5 kids,
a wife, potential
a mortgage,
11 chickens.
We have two water heaters that are out. Just
you
found
have
that
2
out today.
water heaters that
So
are out.
No hot water.
Okay.
Raining cats and dogs.
Yeah.
But we can't have cats. I'm allergic.
Oh, me too, man.
All right.
Well, you got 2 dogs though, so you can handle that, and you're gonna go get a goat sooner or later. So
Yeah, cats and horses. I can't be around. Or hay. I can't be around.
how did you learn you were allergic to horses?
My doctor, Josie Vitale, she's my cousin. She's the best allergy doctor in St. Louis.
Oh yeah.
They poke you in the back. You ever seen that?
I haven't seen that. I think I had that done when I was a little kid. They did
Oh.
those 6 shots. I don't know what I'm allergic to anymore.
Get your allergies checked. Go to my cousin Josie
Vitale,
Lorber.
ladies
Come
and
on,
gentlemen.
shout out Josie.
Shout out. Appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you
Thanks,
at noon
boys.
on Sunday.
Sounds good.
There you go, Joe Vitale. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more. BK and Tanner will join in. We'll get some reaction from the locker room and Jim Montgomery here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN. here on our extended post-game coverage, the fourth period, along with Tanner Hendrickson. Brandon Kiley is hanging out down in the Blues locker room. He'll be up here shortly. Probably, I would imagine he's celebrating the win with the fans, right, T-Bone?
100%.
Because they're the reason that the Blues are in this position.
100%.
The fans made it a victory tonight here at Enterprise Center. 7-2 final scores. We are up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. You could also tweet us at Ferrario 101 ESPN, and you could text us 314-399-9646 as we had our Ted Drury takeaways a little bit ago with Joe Vitale. Let's hear a little from Jim Montgomery and T-Bone before we give some more of our thoughts.
Jim, you could talk about good starts and all, but how did that particular start that you guys had tonight set the tone for how you were going to play this game?
Well, I just thought that the attitude we had, we started the other two games really well. And what I liked was the fierce competitive nature in our attitude for 60 minutes. The start was incredible. Like, you know, we were aggressive. We did the things we wanted to do to make sure that we were going to get more scoring chances, and we did get more scoring chances.
Monty, just for you, what's it like during those first 10 minutes to feel the atmosphere, to just feel what's going on inside the building as you're playing that well?
It's funny. I said to the staff before we went out, I said, you know, when you're on the road, you hear the crowd at the beginning. Puck drops, you don't hear the crowd. But when you're at home, it seems like it just gives you more juice. It just does. And our crowd was great to start the game, and right away, you know, the Let's Go Blues in the first 5 minutes. I know we scored 2 goals, but it gives our players juice. You could tell we were really skating tonight.
Jim, did you sense something was coming with Pavel Buchnevich tonight, and what about his performance tonight kind of caught your eye specifically?
Just how smart he was in the right spots. Like I thought Bucci's been good in the first 2 games. Especially defensively, but offensively, I thought there was more in his game, and I thought he brought that tonight. Not only him, but that line, our power play.
Monty, how would you describe the significance of that first goal? Not so much the timing, but the style of it, with getting guys to the front of the net. I think Snuggerud before sort of opened up that back door for Buchnevich. Yeah,
I mean, it was really important that we got rewarded for what we thought was, you know, playing a North game, simple hockey, you know, and it's a win. Got us back in the series. We got to move on to the next game, you know. That's the important thing is, what are we going to do now? You know, what's next?
Cam Fowler with a huge night for you, and just how big was he tonight, but also just, you know, how important has he been for you guys the entire time he's been here?
He's been remarkable. I told him after the game, thank God you're not in Anaheim anymore. But him and Pears, I thought our decor was really good tonight, and I thought those two led us tonight with their skating, their willingness to shoot. That goal by Cam Fowler, I mean, that's what our decor can do, and we have a lot of guys who can skate back there.
Jim, you had the matchup, and you obviously went with Braden Shen and a mixture of lines against that Scheifele line. Maybe talk about the job that they did against them. I think Scheifele had been hit 7 times through 2 periods. Just the job they did.
Yeah, I thought the first period of this game was very similar to the first period in Winnipeg, game 1. I thought that we were on our toes, moving north and finishing checks. I thought we finished a lot of heavy checks. Kind of wish we were playing in 2 nights. That's what the benefit comes. But, you know, we'll regroup and we'll get ready for Sunday at noon.
Jim, that's a team that obviously does a good job at preventing net front traffic. Why were your guys able to get to the net tonight more regularly?
I think we played a little more of a chaotic game. That helped. We got some bounces. We got some puck luck. But our crowd, like, it's different when you're playing on the road and you fall behind. It just is. We've seen it, you know. And now we got to keep taking advantage of being at home.
Thomas talked about needing to respond, just given how well their top line had played. Did you kind of sense that from, I guess, both Thomas and Buchnevich, the want to respond in a game like this?
Yes. I mean, I think, you know, The reason we're in the playoffs is because those guys responded and took their game to another level. We felt we had to take our game in the playoffs to another level, after losing the first 2 games, and we did that. Now we got to keep going. You got to keep getting better in the series, and we just got to keep getting better. We know how good Winnipeg is.
Monty, after that strong first period, I'm sure you guys probably had a feeling that they were going to throw a little more extra pressure on in the second. How impressive was it for your guys to be able to preserve that lead, weather that storm there in the second?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a storm, but I would call it that we have a great playoff goalie, a proven playoff goalie who makes great timely saves. And that allowed us to maintain that 3-0 lead. They did push, but I thought we protected the net front really well. They're going to get their chances. They're a good offensive hockey team. But I thought that we limited those 3 in the second when we weren't as good as we were in the first.
I like that comment from Jim Montgomery where he said, well, I don't know if that was really considered a storm from Winnipeg. And frankly, it wasn't. I mean, Winnipeg did have a little bit of a push there in that second period, but all for what it's worth, it wasn't that long of a push. BK's back up from the Blues locker room.
Tanner Hendrickson, we're up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL. BK, you were just down there listening to Fowler and Thomas, Buchnevich, Binnington, and Montgomery. We just heard him say it multiple times, it was one game. It sounds like that was the common theme down in the locker room.
Yeah, there's no doubt that was the message. It was very clear from the moment that Robert Thomas started talking. His first answer was basically, great game tonight. We've got a lot more work that we need to do. And they just continued from there. Cam Fowler, same thing. And then you heard from Buchnevich. We heard from Binner downstairs as well. They all had a very clear message. Tonight was special. They played an unbelievable game, and it's one game.
Yep.
It counts the same as the game did in Game 2 that Winnipeg won. It counts the same as Game 1 when Winnipeg won. They've got a lot more work ahead of them. So they've got to find a way to carry this over into Sunday. I thought it was really interesting. You guys just heard it as well from Jim Montgomery when he said, we had a really physical game tonight, and most of the time when you play 2 days later, that's when that pays dividends.
Yeah.
They don't have that advantage because they don't play for another 3 days. They've got a couple of off days here. I will say, I think that could also help the Blues. Robert Thomas looked healthier tonight. He looked like
Parayko
a better version
too.
of himself. Parayko looked like he was moving better tonight than he had in Game 1 or Game 2. Having those 2 days off prior to tonight clearly helped in that regard. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I would make an assumption that was the case. I would assume that 2 more days off for those guys will do nothing but help even more. So it goes both ways. There are some benefits, certainly, for Winnipeg to not have to respond to this in 2 days, to have a couple of off days to clear their heads, but it also does the same thing for the St. Louis.
Here's what I find fascinating, though. If you're Winnipeg, you do have to adjust a little bit to a different style of hockey. So far in this series, the Blues have had 145 hits. Winnipeg's had 134. There have been 172 penalty minutes, 12 misconducts, and the Winnipeg Jets have had a majority of those misconducts. The Blues are 6 for 13 on the power play. Winnipeg is 2 for 10 on their power play. If you're the Jets, you can't keep playing the same physical brand you've been playing and putting this team on the power play, because tonight it gave them the 2-0 lead, and then after Winnipeg made it a little bit of a tighter hockey game, that's when the Blues scored another power play and pushed it even further away.
The Jets lost their cool tonight.
Yeah.
Let's be real. That's what happened in that third period. They lost their cool, and they didn't know how to respond. There was, honestly, no response.
Right.
At a certain point in time, it just got completely out of hand. But I was surprised to see that. This is not a team. I'd have to look this up. I wonder how many times they've lost like that this year. The entirety of the season.
Yeah.
Being
blown out like that?
They have one of the best goalies in the NHL. He almost never gets pulled from a game.
Yeah.
He was pulled tonight, midway through the third period, and their coach said we were able to drop in on the latter stages of his presser, and he said, hey, listen, there's no reason for him to be in that game anymore.
Right.
And it's true. They had no chance to be able to come back. Connor Hellebuck, this is something that is probably in his head. You talked about his playoff issues coming into this series, Alex. Mm-hmm. It's really playoff road issues.
Yeah.
That's what's going on here. So in his last 5 playoff games on the road, he is now 1-4. Actually, you include tonight. I believe it's 1-5. 22 goals, 156 shots. That's an 86% save percentage.
Yep.
He's been downright terrible.
And meanwhile, on the other side, Binnington, in 7 of his last 9 playoff games, he's allowed fewer than 2 goals in every single one of them.
Binner, and I mean, you heard it, that Jim Montgomery, I thought he had a great quote there to finish out his press conference tonight. I want to get this quote correct because it was a good one. We have a great proven playoff goalie. He makes timely saves. He's the one that kept that 3-0 lead for us.
Yep.
That save that he had, whether you think it was a save or not, doesn't much matter. It counted all the same. It goes down in the stat sheet as such. That was the moment of the game.
Yeah.
Because if that thing goes in,
it's 3-1.
Everything changes. And the momentum could potentially swing in the direction of the Winnipeg Jets, and who knows what happens from there. So, huge moment of the game. Jordan Binnington in a playoff game. We knew it was coming, and tonight was the night for him.
Real quick to your question of, man, when was the last time this happened to the Winnipeg Jets? Have they lost a game like this? 7 goals, most they've allowed this season in a game. 5 goal differential, how much they lost by 5 goals, only happened once this season in the regular season, and that was back on November 16th at the Florida Panthers. They just don't give up goals like this, and they definitely don't get blown out.
Do you have
like
this? Was Hellebuck in net in that game? I'd be curious to find out.
My guess is it is. If it's November, it's rare that, early on in the season.
He was in net that game.
Yeah.
So it's happened one other time, basically.
And that's the thing. This team doesn't. That's the type of adversity. And look, Joey said it with us while you were down in the room, BK, but Scott Arniel's going to adjust. This is what teams typically do. But in what way do you adjust? Because Winnipeg has not seen this from the Blues. I looked at this. The Blues in the first 2 games from their defensive core had a total of 21 shot attempts. Tonight they had 30 shot attempts. Like, they have not played against a team, this Blues team, that activates their defense as much as they do. And if you're Winnipeg, it was easier to defend before because they weren't doing that. They were making the passes out of the zone. They were stopping them in the neutral zone. And on the other side of this, now you got to worry about the physicality that the Blues have been bringing, but also how tight defensively they're playing in the offensive zone.
And I liked this where Jim Montgomery in his press conference tonight mentioned the word chaos. They created more chaos tonight. And I think that's really what those shots from the point do for the Blues, is they allow you to just say, all right, here it comes, let it fly, and then there's havoc in front of the net. And that's where the Blues are able to do some of that damage. So now you'll find out, okay, what is the Jets' adjustment to that? Do they start to bring some of those forwards out a little bit further in their own zone? And if so, what does that do for the Blues? It's this cat and mouse game, right? Yeah. The Jets played one way in Winnipeg, and it worked for them. It made the Blues go crazy. They didn't know how to get to the front of the net, which has been their MO during this winning stretch. Now the Blues come back home, they change their style. They activate that defense, and it's whether it's on the rush or it's them coming from the point. Tyler Tucker was a huge part of that tonight. Yeah. Great move by Jim Montgomery to put him into the game. It was exactly what I think he wanted him to do. Physical, shots from the point. Boom, 2 for 2 in that regard.
Right.
Now what do the Jets do? They're going to adjust. And then the Blues will adjust to that adjustment as well. And the question is, can the Blues adjust quicker this time? Can they make that adjustment, whether it be prior to game number 4, like anticipating what the Jets are going to do? Is it in game that they have to make that adjustment? That's going to be what I find to be most interesting in game number 4.
Yeah, we'll see what those adjustments are. But, man, this defense, man, when they get rolling,
there's no stopping them.
I mean, you said it perfectly. It's chaos. Look, the Blues get in on the cycle game. Their defense are all over the place. I mean, we talked about this on our show during the regular season. Man, when the Blues are really going, they've got that cycle game going, and you don't know who a defenseman is if you weren't a Blues fan, right? Because you could see Parayko in the front of the net. You could see Broberg behind the net, and that's what they were really doing tonight, and especially at 5-on-5. I was really impressed by the way they were able to activate and really generate that offense for them tonight. I'll be curious. I don't know if Winnipeg will be able to make that specific adjustment because I think Joey said it best. There's not really a team in the in the Central Division that has that kind of plays this kind of style. So I'll be curious to see if the Jets do make that adjustment in this series.
Well, and final one that we'll touch on before we close it down. We spent a lot of time today and really the last couple of days talking about the biggest key is going to be shutting down Connor Scheifele and Iafallo. They were a combined -9 tonight, and I believe Connor and Scheifele combined for 2 shots on goal. And it started with Neighbors' line against them, Neighbors, Shen, and Kyrou. Second period, they put Thomas's line back against them, and no matter who played against that line, Jim Montgomery rolled 4 lines tonight. With the power plays and all the penalties that were taking place, it messed up some of the line and the times on ice. But it didn't matter what matchup. They were finding ways to eliminate that Connor and Scheifele line.
They did a really good job against it. It started out with the Shin line just wreaking havoc against them, and Shin was the guy that created some physicality, and I think that kind of took Scheifele out of his game a little bit early on. And then they, like you said, they just started rolling all 4 lines by the time that they were up, and that's something that Booch mentioned today as well. Hey, when you're up, it's easier to play.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot easier. We have to stop chasing the game. We've got to get up early, and that allows you to play a little bit differently. So I thought Robert Thomas, to me, there were a couple of plays of the game. One was the Benner save, obviously. You start out, the hot streak, whatever, early on, the first 5 minutes were unbelievable. But then beyond that, like once you really got into the game, it was the Benner save, and then Robert Thomas getting in on the forecheck with Hellebuck behind his own net. Creating a loose puck and then getting that over to Booch. Hellebuck, I don't know what he was doing. He just it was like his controller froze.
Yeah.
He just stopped.
Well, and I think it was because he went out to look for it. He didn't see Booch coming behind him. He was focused on Thomas. Booch chips his stick down. Thomas steals the puck, and then there you go.
And it's game over.
Yeah.
And he had nowhere to go. So that was, to me, a really big moment in that game. The reason that I bring that up is because that was a moment for Robert Thomas where he's getting in on the forecheck.
Yeah.
I felt like in the first couple of games, I didn't think you saw enough of that from him or from Buchnevich, who he just played it.
Yeah, that was your best line tonight.
Game.
Yeah.
Booch was angry from the moment that the puck was dropped. So those guys getting in on the forecheck the way that they did, creating offensively the way that they did, it changed everything for them.
Yeah, and the other one, I mean, you mentioned that early start for the St. Louis Blues. The power play goal makes it 2-0. Guys, they're winning the special teams battle right now. I mean,
not close.
It's not close at all. And some of the, like, even one of the goals for Winnipeg came late in kind of that garbage time there where it was a little bit of a blowout at the point. But, man, the Blues' power play so far in this series, 6 for 15 at 40%. You look at their PK, they've killed 8 of 10. One of those goals came in that final 5-minute stretch there. 80% on the PK, 40% on the power play. That's going to play. And if they make these adjustments like we saw tonight at 5-on-5, it's what we've been talking about. It's been kind of the 3 things that are going to lead to them getting back into this series, and they made it a series tonight. It's, can you kind of even up at the 5-on-5 game? They did that tonight. They shut down the Jets' top line. Bennington remains awesome. He was that again tonight, made that crucial save, and then you win the special teams battle, and they are doing that right now. They've been a very good special team on special teams since Four Nations break, and they've continued that into the playoffs, and that is so huge for this team. They are taking advantage. I mean, you mentioned it. Winnipeg played undisciplined tonight, kind of Blues got in their head.
Yep.
If that continues to happen in this series and they don't shut that down and they keep going to the box, Blues are making them pay right now.
Yep. Well, they're back at it on Sunday noon, which I think is going to be like a 12:15, 12:20 puck drop. But, hey, it's not a 9 o'clock puck drop like we went through tonight. And if you love this, we'll be back in about 11 hours to do this over. No. I
sound rough, man.
I walked past Trevor Nickerson with Blue Dove Productions, and, we were talking about the atmosphere, and he's like, oh, yeah, I pumped the volume up to like 100 tonight. And I go, cool.
Yeah, it was noticeable.
Yeah, I won't be able to talk afterwards because I'm shouting at people, but, hey. Playoff hockey, am I right? So you two will hold down the fort.
This
tomorrow.
was as good of an environment as you're going to see. Tonight was incredible here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it's the loudest it's been since the Cup final.
You think 22 was
22 was loud,
amazing.
but I don't think it was anything
that
near
wild
this.
series here, no pun intended.
Yeah.
There were moments in that series that rivaled this.
Yeah.
This was pretty the start. I mean,
that's
the prong
first
coming
10
out.
minutes.
And then the way that they began the game with the goal and then the power. I mean, it was just.
And then the hit. I think I was neighbors down behind the net, if I'm not mistaken, that laid a massive hit on Logan Stanley. And at that moment, it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this place is going to be bonkers all night long.
The physicality in the first period was ridiculous.
I don't know how the Jets are getting out of bed tomorrow morning.
The Blues either. I mean,
yeah, I was
also part of those hits, man.
There was one of the hit that I don't even know who laid it, but they hit one Jets player. He slid butt first into another Jets player, and they both toppled over.
That was the third period, right?
Yeah, at that point, you got to be like, cool, can we just end this game? Now, that's why you're seeing guys get misconducts.
Sure.
Luke Shen was like, get me the hell out of here. Logan Stanley, I'm done. Get me out of here. We're done.
Let's get out of here.
Get us out of here. We'll talk to you in 11 hours. Huge shout-out to BK and Tanner sticking around. Jim Hewer, Drew Young, Jordan Deacon. I'm Alex Ferrario. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you Sunday at 11 for Blues and Jets Game 4 here on 101 ESPN.